Hello and welcome to this edition of Finance and Technology Insights. I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting. He's Eric Buhrendorf from EVERNET. What's happening, Eric?
We'll do it live. How's it going?
Yeah, good. I hear you've got a sick child this morning.
Yes, I have a sick child on my 40th birthday. Today I turned 40.
Hey, that's right. Happy birthday.
How do I look? Do I look any older?
No, I think you look a tad younger. So whatever
thank you.
supplements you're taking, whatever sort of Rogan shots you're taking, you're doing all right.
It's this venti 4-shot espresso latte.
That'll do it. You go out to get that every morning? Is that just a birthday treat?
It's a birthday treat, but I did have one yesterday as well. So I had somebody come by the house. So, when I'm social or treating myself, I try not to get, at $6 or $7 a coffee, I remember when I was a kid, we had, I don't know if somebody's parents came to the school. I don't know, it was like 5th grade or something. Somebody's parent was a financial advisor or something, and just stuck in my head that she's like, the lesson was take what you would spend on Dunkin' Donuts every morning and put it into an investment vehicle or something. And then by the time you're retired, you'd have $250,000 or something.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's one of the big Dave Ramsey things. It's one of those Dave Ramsey memes you see around, if you want to be a millionaire, just stop drinking your coffee. You see that around quite a bit.
Yeah. And so it really does affect me every time I go to Dunkin'. My dad is retired, lives with us in the in-law suite, and every morning he goes to Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm like, Dad, you can't spend your retirement on Dunkin'. He's like, yeah, but you can't take it with you when you die. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Were people in your high school drinking coffee? Was that like a regular thing at the time or not?
So
even bringing in outside Dunkin' or Starbucks.
I think some people were. I remember I had my best friend was 2 years older than me, and I remember he was a morning coffee drinker, which got me into coffee. So I started drinking coffee around 9th, 10th, 11th grade on a regular basis, which, I don't know how that went for me, but
yeah, they always used to say it would stunt your growth, right? But I've always been surprised. There's certain occasions where I'll drop my wife off at high school in the morning. She's a teacher, not in high school, but so I'll drop her off in the morning or pick her up, and I'm always shocked at there's always a Dunkin' Donuts within a few miles of every school at this point because you're so close to them. But how many high school kids are walking around carrying something from Dunkin' Donuts? Just crazy.
My wife lets our older daughter, our 10-year-old, get a Java chip from Starbucks.
Okay.
And I don't know if it has caffeine. I don't think it has caffeine in it. She doesn't seem to, bounce off the walls when she has it. She can't even drink more than, a fifth of the thing. You know what I mean? So it usually goes to waste. But I am really hypersensitive to these habits that the children emulate. My wife, not so much. I think my wife operates kind of in the normal, and I read the new studies or the headlines, and I'm like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that,
Yeah.
My wife's just like, calm down.
Yeah, my wife's a tea drinker, but she won't drink anything with caffeine in it. So she drinks one in the morning, and I think she takes one with her. She's one of the people who's cold all the time, so she likes to have those hot teas.
I have teas in the house, and I was going to transition to tea just to try to reduce my caffeine intake. But it's really tea in particular. I don't know. The bitterness is not favorable. I don't desire the bitterness, whereas coffee, the bitterness, I drink black coffee. I can't drink iced black coffee because that's really bitter, but I'm also cognizant of the calories. There's 200 calories in that drink. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's like a donut,
I know. I'd rather have a donut. Yeah.
So, all of our audience can come here hear us talk about our coffee habits. What's going on? What's going on at work? Anything new?
Well, I had just listened to a podcast this morning. It's called DC Pension Geeks. So Washington, D.C. So they had these two attorneys on. It's kind of interesting because the younger one used to work for the older one. And the recording date of the podcast just happened to be 10 years after the day that the younger one left that firm. And so they have their I don't think they're on opposing sides on any specific case, but they certainly had some opposing viewpoints on some topics. So that was about as exciting as you could get from a yeah, there it is. So that's from the American Retirement Association with Brian Gaff. So that was Jerry Schlichter and Tom Clark, and it was pretty good. It was 41 minutes. They got to the meet around 35 minutes, which I think you'll be interested in, and then they felt like they cut it off almost a little bit too soon. They probably could have gone an hour or so. They probably could have made it a Lex or Rogan cast or something if they wanted to. But one of the big issues, so this guy, Jerry Schlichter, he's one that's been in the forefront of 401k lawsuits and driving down the costs of plans. So he's in a position where he's suing the plan sponsor, the business owner, saying you breached your fiduciary responsibility by having a 401k plan that was too expensive. So that's why in our business, we talk a lot about fees, although, as professionals, you don't necessarily want to compete on fees, but it's something that we always have to talk about just because it's in the news so much. And so that wasn't necessarily the purpose of this podcast. They were talking a lot about participant data, which was a big deal, and talking a lot about cybersecurity towards the end. So on participant data, it was, who owns the data and does the record keeping platform, what they do with it. Should that affect the pricing of the plan? Should they actually be doing anything with the data at all? So I know that's kind of an inside baseball, kind of super nerdy thing, but that was pretty interesting. And they both said, as far as your world is concerned, one of the biggest things going forward is going to be the cybersecurity and the ability of ne'er-do-wells to attack pension accounts and process transactions. And as we've said on this podcast many times, the easier you make it for things to get done, the more susceptible it is to hackers and bad things happening. So, just something to be careful of from an advisor standpoint, how you send out certain emails, and even just an email to somebody, which might seem pretty innocent, like, hey, this is how you log into your Fidelity account, and sending a link. Well, if that email gets intercepted, I mean, that's already a significant data point. You've got the name, first name, last name, email address, and where their retirement savings are. And the website, which you can obviously get there. But even something like that which you wouldn't consider to be something that's super sensitive, but just important to keep that in mind and how you communicate that kind of stuff. So anyway, a lot going on in that world. And I wouldn't say heated at the end. There's a LinkedIn post that said that it got a little bit heated. I don't think it was, but could have gone a little bit longer. Maybe they'll do a part 2.
Yeah, I hate watching media and watching a good subject matter get bookended early because of target times.
Right.
One of the reasons why I hate mainstream news, because you have the anchor who's bringing somebody on to weigh in on something, and then you hear them like, okay, we got to go. Like, we don't really care about what you're saying, but we're cutting you short. So that's too bad that they cut it short. But it looks like they do have part 1s and part 2s, so maybe they'll take it. It looks like, so Jerry Schlichter and Tom Clark were the guests on
Correct.
Brian Gaff's show.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a relatively new podcast. I think he's maybe 5 episodes in, but starting to get little play, and people are talking about that. But so I guess my question is for you, and how it ties it all back is, if it feels like there's less of a box to kind of put in, okay, this is a piece of information that needs to be secure. This is a piece of information that doesn't need to be secure. But again, the harder we make it for people to get to stuff, and the easier we make it, can make obviously our jobs and their jobs a lot easier. So how do you kind of draw the line is what's a sensitive piece of information and requires special handling on your end, or how you'd recommend clients handle that?
I mean, you have me on the spot. So there's a term called PII, personally identifiable information, and that's the term generally used to describe information that should be considered sensitive and handled with care. First name, last name, middle name, social, address, bank account numbers, all of that information is considered sensitive. I just emailed my bank account and routing number to a vendor who's who had to update our account or something. So account numbers and routing numbers. I mean, the routing number for the bank is public, so that's not sensitive. The account number, is like your address. So like I sent it via unencrypted email, knowing what my risk exposure is. Not generally a good habit. If you're a real estate attorney and you're handling real estate attorneys are just getting targeted so heavily right now because they're usually not very sophisticated in their security training and security mechanisms, and they're handling frequent large transactions. Account security is really important. So making sure that you're securing your account. Multi-factor authentication is critical. Last week we talked about, I put M&T Bank on blast because of I think they're handling their password log. I mean, it seems stupid, but the screen that they use to manage a password change doesn't support password managers, and they limit the password to 20 characters. So like those are the kinds of things that there should be no practical limit. I mean, when I say practical limit, like maybe 255 characters, that seems to be a common character limit for certain database fields and things. So certainly a password should not be limited to 20 characters. There's really no reason for it. The complexity, all ASCII characters should be accepted, but the vendors really should embrace multi-factor authentication. So like, are your vendors and the retirement accounts, do you see them protecting the accounts with multi-factor?
They do. Sometimes it's optional.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people will skip through it. So that's not a good idea.
Right there, the institution should lead by example and not allow that to be optional. So I don't mean to override.
No, no.
Right there, it's that important. If the password limit is, if they set a limit to 20 characters, if it can't be fully complex, if MFA, before it was if MFA was available, now if it's optional, like if a financial institution has MFA and it's optional, they're not leading. They're following. Right.
Yeah, and I have one piece of software that was particularly bad because it was kind of it didn't have a lot of account numbers in it actually, but it had planning and information in there regarding socials, name, address, date of birth, all that kind of stuff. So it had a lot of my clients in there, and for a while it was not required. It would say, do you want to add this or skip this step or whatever. But I did add it pretty early on, but for a while it was optional.
Do you put out any recurrent training content to your clients?
I haven't yet. Nope. But it's something that I've thought about, or
I would urge you to find a venue that works within the parameters of your regulatory body, because I know that you have various regulations that you've got to meet, but I don't see how education or information can be bad. I would almost, if I were you, I would seek out some third-party vendor that would allow you to send out some stream of cybersecurity training content that like just little chunks, not walls of text, but like, so we sell a security awareness training platform for our clients, and it's an actual learning management system. So all of their staff create an account. They get training material. They have to take an assessment for every training, micro training and annual training, and then it all gets measured back to a management dashboard. Point is not only is the account security critical, but the education is the second piece. So it's like those are the two biggest pieces that are in this, the cybersecurity landscape right now: education and account security.
Right, because it all comes from, most of it's coming from internal mistakes, right? Your employees are clicking on something or doing something. The good news is, with a lot of what we do, there's extra steps involved on any sort of movement of money. It's normally got to be approved by 2 or 3 different parties, and then I'm going to see it. So I'm going to know, usually I know if there's a pretty large sum of money moving somewhere, but if a short-term employee rolls money out, like I may not see that right away. I may not even have a chance to connect with that participant on that. So, so I'll usually see those, and the plan sponsor, the employer, sees those. So usually they have a pretty good handle on that. But once the money's gone, it's kind of gone. So it's a big issue in our industry because we still do a lot of paper checks, which I don't know. You could argue both sides of that, I guess. People don't like dealing with the paper checks. They'd just rather have it go to the next financial institution rather than getting a check and then going and depositing it or overnighting it somewhere, versus either going directly by check or going directly through ACH or wire or something.
Right.
But, I don't know. Mail isn't perfect either. Physical mail. I mean, people can jack stuff out of a mailbox pretty easily. And
yeah, I mean, that's why I don't get too hot about emailing an account number, because sending a check, emailing, I would argue that emailing is more secure than mailing a check, because a check can be easily intercepted with first name, last name, mailing address, and account and routing number. You know, I mean, it's all there in the thing, and how many hands does that touch? And that could be intercepted, read, and then reinserted. So that's called a man in the middle attack. So you wouldn't even know if that information was stolen. A plain email, yes, it could be listened to on the wire, but nowadays, you know, there's, you know, anybody can be sniffing on the network between here and there, but it's unlikely that any casual the sniffing usually happens on the local network. So like if you go to a coffee shop with a public Wi-Fi and you send an email there, you know, that's the vector usually, not from